under absolutely every condition conceivable to man. So no matter what the climate presents to Bobby Allison or the racetrack, I've seen races where the racetrack was coming up in giant chunks and crashing through Bobby Allison's windshield. So he can race under almost any condition. Nothing would be a surprise to him. I think that his experience would be a real advantage on a day like today.
We talked about some of the track improvements that have been made here at North Wilkesboro. There is a shot of the new scoring tower that they have built outside of corner number 4. That's where the scorers watch the race from. Larry Newber has more.
5, 10, 20, maybe as many as 30 cars all whizzing by in about a second. You know, it can be as fast as 200 miles an hour on a superspeedway. Now, keeping all of those cars in perfect order in terms of on the piece of paper, that may be the biggest job of a sanctioning body. Now, in NASCAR, it's an intricate system, actually uniting several techniques. There are scores, 2 finish lines, a camera, and a professional score auditor. Now, to begin with, each car has 2 scores. The team provides one and NASCAR provides another. And each lap is recorded in these little squares in the race's running time. And every 10 laps, the car's number is flashed up to keep an unofficial running order. There are 2 finish lines in every race. One directly underneath the official scoring stand, which determines the lap leader unless there is a caution flag. Then the official line is directly under the starter. Also, there are independent scores at the entrance and the exit to pit row. And there is a caution tape person to keep complete track during any yellow flag conditions. When it's all over, the order of finish is determined by how many of those squares you filled in and who was able to do it first. Now, Morris Metcalf, NASCAR's official score, can do all of this in about 5 minutes. And during the running of the race, he shouts out instructions to all, kind of like a quarterback. If there are any disputes, rechecks can be made and all of these written records used to determine the official order of finish. And of course, there's the old finish line camera. You know, about a decade ago, Bobby Allison and Cale Yarborough both tried to get into victory lane at Nashville. Hopefully, all of this will avoid that sort of thing. But you know, in NASCAR, someday, there's going to be a tie.
Larry recorded that feature yesterday during a modified race on this course, and that race was won by Bill Kimmel from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. In the Grand National race here at North Wilkesboro, the leader is Bobby Allison. We'll be right back. North Carolina Speedway, where the Northwestern Bank 400 is underway with 145 laps completed. And there is the battle for first place. It involves Bobby Allison in car number 22. Running in second position is Neil Bonnet in car number 12. Let's review the top 20 positions for you. Kyle Petty is in third, Jeff Bodine fourth, and Dale Earnhardt is running fifth. In sixth spot is Terry Labonte, then Ricky Rudd, Harry Gant, Darrell Waltrip, and Bill Elliott. In 11th position, Richard Petty. 12th is Ken Schrader. 13th is Lake Speed. A lap down in 14th, Ron Bouchard. Darrell Waltrip in 15th position. 16th spot belongs to Dave Marcus. Then Phil Parsons, Rusty Wallace, Clark Dwyer, and Buddy Arrington. We have had 2 yellow flags displayed here on the racetrack this afternoon. One because of an accident involving Eddie Burchwell. His car hit the tire down at the end of pit road, and his car was knocked out of the race. And then Tim Richmond spun in turn number 4, but was able to continue in the race. Only 2 cars out of the competition, Burchwell and Buddy Baker.
And Bob, we're at the point in the race where Allison and number 12, Neil Bonnet, are beginning to work their way into the top 10 as far as putting laps on people. For everybody's information at home, Richard Petty, Ken Schrader, and Lake Speed went a lap down while we were running down the top 20. So you get an idea of just how fast Allison and Bonnet are going.
Well, confidence is not a word in the vocabulary of most crew chiefs, especially during the heat of battle. But if you take a look at Leonard Wood, it's very obvious that he's pleased with the run that Kyle Petty has made thus far this afternoon. They're running solidly in the top 5, and him sitting up in the truck kind of says it all.
Looks like a very relaxed person, but his driver is running very well. That is Kyle Petty, and there is the shot from inside his car. Kyle in third spot.
Well, they've won a lot of races, I'll tell you. There you see Phil Parsons motioning to Kyle Petty, telling him, I see you're coming, go to the high side. Not an easy trick on a day like today. As you can see, Kyle fights it just a little bit, but he knows that Phil has already recognized that he's coming around, and he will be giving way on the high side. There goes Kyle Petty around Phil.
Both of the Junior Johnson cars have had trouble here today. Neil Bonnet's car failed to go when the green came out from a yellow. Vapor lock, apparently. That situation is okay now because Neil is running in second spot. And then Darrell Waltrip slowed dramatically in the third turn during one particular lap. We theorized that the power steering may have gone out on that car. In any case, Darrell is also back up to speed.
You saw Phil Parsons down on the inside fighting that wheel for a second there. I think he was kind of watching carefully the rearview mirror. There were some faster cars moving by on the high side. There you see Jeff Bodine and Rusty Wallace working to the high side of Phil Parsons, but everything is back in running order for Phil as we watch from inside Kyle Petty's car.
Well, Bob and Larry, at first you thought that it was power steering, and in some cases we thought it might be something in the drivetrain. The latest information that we can get from the crew chief is the fact that he's got a problem possibly with the rear end cooling system. We'll just have to wait and see, but they're prepared should he have to come in and add additional rear end grease.
Well, he's running in 8th position right now, and on your screen, Darrell Waltrip from Franklin, Tennessee, an 8-time winner here on this racetrack.
Bobby has about a straightaway advantage over first and second place. There's Bonnet continuing to just hound Bobby Allison as they come out of turn number 4. Waltrip, whom Jack just talked about, is entering turn number 1. Darrell seems to have gotten to a period of the race where he has slowed down again. He is not running at extremely reduced speed, but the leaders are beginning to move up on Darrell, and boy, does he need a caution flag right now. Of course, we all have seen Darrell Waltrip drop more than a lap to the leaders before the halfway point of any 400-lap race. He always seems to have the ability to come back.
Just in case you Bill Elliott fans are wondering where your driver is at this particular point, he's running in 10th spot and has not had a particularly good day. We've seen him out of the groove on a couple of occasions, trying very hard on this short track here. He's lying right now in 10th position. Allison the leader, and Bonnet in second place going inside, and Buddy Arrington in that Ford moving high on the racetrack to let them go by. An impressive performance so far with 155 laps completed for Bobby Allison. He started this race up front. As a matter of fact, he was the 3rd quickest qualifier after the 2 days average type of thing, and has moved into the lead, went into the lead on lap number 59.
Well, unlike Bobby Allison, who is still groping for that first win in a long time, the first win in 1985, Neil Bonnet already does have a win. Here's a guy, Harry Gant, who when he started the race today, he went over the $100,000 winning mark. He's finished second at North Wilkesboro 4 times, including last year. Once, I believe it was, but when he started today and took the green flag, he won over $100,000 already this year in earnings. He became, I believe, something like the 9th driver already this year to win that amount of money.
Harry Gant from Taylorsville, North Carolina, which isn't too awfully far from where we are this afternoon here in North Wilkesboro. Started 15th in this race in the Skoal Bandit Chevrolet. Harry, of course, is a veteran of the short tracks around this area, and we asked him if that gave him an advantage here.
Harry, you have years and years of short track experience. Does it help you when you come to a place like North Wilkesboro?
No, I believe it hurts you. These cars are so much different from what we ran on the short tracks. Everybody's got the same advantage here, even someone that has never even run a short track in a sportsman car and just run Grand National is better, I think. These cars are much heavier and everything works different. There's longer races, track gets slicker. So I can't say it's really helped a bit from my experience on short tracks.
Well, we have a new leader while we were listening to Harry Gant. Neil Bonnet moved into the lead, and he becomes our 4th leader of the afternoon.
Bob, as we look at these two guys, both of them have run many, many races on short tracks. You know, racing on short tracks in the early stages of your career, it's kind of like going to college. Everybody asks, well, did you go to college? You have to kind of pass that test before you move on. It doesn't necessarily apply to what your job is today. The first word that comes out of everybody's mouth, once you say, yeah, I went to college, they say, well, what kind of experience do you have for this job? And you say, well, this is my first one. So that's kind of how I would equate it. You run all those years on the short tracks, it's like you're paying your dues, but when you come up to the Grand National racing, there are some skills, of course, that you've learned through all those years of short track racing, but you really have to refine them and hone them and adjust them so that they adapt to these 3,700-pound cars, anywhere from 80 miles an hour to over 200 miles an hour on the big tracks.
And you can see how Bill Elliott has just been lapped by the leaders, as the average speed is 95.001. There's Gant, there's Bonnet, there's Allison, and there is Bill Elliott, who has just been lapped in 9th position. Now Harry Gant is running in 10th position, make that 8th position, and Harry is just about to go a lap down to the leaders. Bobby Allison, by the way, led 102 laps before Neil Bonnet took over command. He led laps 59 until lap 102.
Well, if you're beginning to wonder, gee, are we working on some kind of wreck here because we've gone so far without any caution flags? There's no way. Back in 1971 here, an entire race ran without a caution flag. Bobby Isaac was the winner of that race. Darrell Derringer led most of the laps in the Junior Johnson Ford, but they went the entire distance without any yellow bunting.
And there is Ron Bouchard, who has come in for a stop. The hood up on that car while tires are being changed on the right side and fuel is being dumped in. There's Ron Bouchard from Fitchburg, Massachusetts.
Bob, there is some chemical going underneath the hood. Apparently something in there is leaking or maybe overheating. They're trying to work, and lots of smoke coming out from the exhaust headers now. Probably the brakes getting hot in the cars. They start to change tires. Remember, green flag conditions, they can change all 4 here if they want to. You also saw a crew member going underneath the hood and doing some twisting action. They're trying to crank a little more weight into that corner of the car to make the car stick a little better in the corners. But I don't believe this is necessarily a routine pit stop. They did a lot of work, Jack.
Larry and Bob, the thing to remember when you look at the temperature and possibly the problem with brakes here, temperature-wise, brake calipers will get as hot as 1,500 degrees. Now, what does that really mean? Well, an acetylene cutting torch cuts metal at 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're only dealing with about 300 degrees before we reach the melting point.
That is hot. That's even hotter than the people that are sitting out here in front of us in the hot sunshine.
You betcha. By the way, as we watch the leaders, Eddie Burchwell, whom we saw crash a little earlier today, is making his way back out onto the racetrack. So for all you fans down there in Texas, Eddie's back.
Burchwell moving out onto the racetrack after an incident down in corner number 4 early on in the race. So Junior Johnson, there he is. He sees one of his cars driven by Neil Bonnet in the lead at this point. It has about a 3 or 4 car length lead on Bobby Allison running in 2nd position. And it's always nice to